ваши технологии, та платформа, которую продвигает компания PTC, помогает производителям значительно сокращать сроки вывода продукции в производство. Вы заявляете 2-3 раза. Купил платформу у вас и значительно сократил издержки. Первый мой вопрос такой. Я знаю, что в вашем вокабуляре есть такой термин IoT Ready. Готовность к внедрению технологий промышленного интернета. А что такое IoT Ready? Как вы определяете компании IoT Ready по IoT Not Ready? Каковы критерии этого отбора? И правильно я понимаю, что технологии промышленного интернета — это своего рода такая надстройка над какими-то базовыми конструкторскими технологиями. И если в базисе не все в порядке, то внедрение промышленных технологий компании никак не поможет. Господин Гренет.
Well, first, thank you very much for the introduction. It was true, actually, that PTC was founded by a Russian guy called Sami Kazberg from St. Petersburg 30 years ago. And I think there's a lot of hype right now around the IoT, and especially driven from the Silicon Valley, so what we call the GAFA, the Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, and Amazon. However, if you really look into the studies, the major impact, economical impact that will happen for us will be in the industrial world, and that impact will come very soon, so in the coming 5 years. That studies that we drove a lot with Professor Porter from Harvard Business School, with customers that you saw actually yesterday in the video that was presented during the introduction and the welcome ceremony from Schneider. So a lot of studies demonstrating really the economical impact of the Internet of Things. However, as you said, those concepts are not fully new. If I take again a Russian example, in 1957, Sputnik was in the space, and Sputnik was equipped right now with sensors and telecommunications. So this part of the Internet of Things existed. Then we are using the Internet for 30 years, so that's also something which is not new. What is new is today the work we have done on the digital side, so whether it is on the ERP side, improving how we simulate the manufacturing operations, how we improve it, the work we've done on the product development side, and really be able to reconciliate both that digital simulation, actually, of the product and its associated operations with what the product tells us from the field. So a good example maybe would be to describe that the fact that the product today have evolved dramatically. If I own a car, for instance, basic example, my car is at least at 10% in my iPad right now, so I know where it is. It delivers a certain level of function from my iPad. The car is also in the cloud in a place, probably in Germany, because I own a German car, so it's somewhere in Germany in the cloud, and my car is, of course, in a parking lot in France right now. So what I'm trying to say that the first maybe advice to a company to be IoT ready is to understand that IoT is part of the product, IoT is part of the operations. So it's not something which is remote, and they need to look at it as part of what their current business is delivering. A second thing that I would maybe say to answer your question is that I think we know 10-20% of what the IoT can deliver for our business. And maybe a good way to say it is that we are today probably overestimating the impact of IoT short term, but we are underestimating the impact of IoT long term. So what I'm trying to say is that if you want to start on the IoT right now, the first thing to look at is traditionally how you want to improve your traditional operations. So this is typically Industry 4.0 or Industry 2020 if you are in China, or Brian Factory if you are in the US. So that's a good way to start. I found actually that probably one of the best way to start also is on service. So typically if you have mining equipment, if you have very complex assets that are served remotely, like radiology equipment for hospitals and things like that, a good way to start is service, because you can understand how the product is performing and you can fix proactively the product function. It applies very well for equipment, for instance, like pumps in a refinery. That's also a very nice way to start with. So I would say in the coming 3 to 5 years, probably a focus on operations, look at your business, analyze really where you want to improve and use IoT as a way to improve your traditional business. However, I was also saying that we are underestimating the impact of IoT long term. We strongly believe that there will be business disruption that will be driven in the coming 5 or 10 years by those technologies. And that's why it's critically important that companies today start understanding what is the impact of IoT for their business and start to do something now. They don't have to do something big, but they need to really get the organization to learn it, because IoT disrupts not only the value chain. I think there was a comment from the minister yesterday around the value chain concept of the fact that a lot of startups will be able to join. But the second part is that it disrupts also the organizations. So the first thing that most companies do is that they appoint a chief digital officer. So somebody who is not reporting to engineering, manufacturing, finance, or whatever functions, but somebody who looks at the data, because data is the new oil, that the new generation of oil that we will have, and really understand how strategically those companies can manage the data. So to conclude, maybe if in this room people are starting pilots to understand really the technology on IoT, if people are implementing it short term to improve their operations, and they are appointing somebody to look strategically at it, I would consider those companies are IoT ready.